I ask for the truth on behalf of Verônica Precybilovicz concerning family issues. And I ask this in the name of truth, right conduct, peace, love and non-violence. Blessed be to the crow, the carrier of souls from darkness into light. And blessed be to the truth always. And we cut the DAC for you there, Verônica. Where the DAC is cut, of course, is where it's thought to be at its most strongest point, isn't it? We'll just move the tarot, and I'll just pop them, just stick them here just for a moment, because we're going to deal out 7 cards. So we'll deal out, we're going to deal in a row. The first is the distant past and the recent past. Those are the first cards we deal. And then there's 3 in the middle, which is the present event, present obstacle and present outcome. And then finally the immediate future influence and overall outcome we place there. We'll just neaten those up. So it's 2, 3, 2, isn't it? If you can just see that there. Let's just do that. And then of course we can just pop the rest of the deck over there, can't we? Out of the way now. We've got our cards here. Thought we'd do a sort of a 3-card spread, but with 2, 3, 2, the 7 cards. It's what you should really always do, actually, but it's we do 3 cards normally, mainly for time, and of course more practical when we've got lots of people to attend to, I suppose. In this case, the time is, the floor is yours there, the sands of time, as I suppose. I just turned the hourglass about 10 minutes ago, so we've got plenty of time there running. And I thought, yes, well, we'll try tarot for this one. We read your post in the 3 psychic readings group on Facebook. I read that. Of course, we can't stand in judgment and we can't pick sides, but we have to go by what energies are there and so on. I've just had a cup of coffee actually, I drank it completely, so I've either just got to go and make another one, or we just carry on where we are. So I think we'll carry on now, because otherwise I'll be awake all day, which is what you should be really. 7 cards here then. So what have we got? We've got the recent past influence here, and the distant past, recent past, the first 2. And then of course, as we said, the present influence, which is an event which is happening now. And then when in the Celtic spread, this card is the one here in the middle is the present obstacle, and in the Celtic spread it's normally the second one dealt, which goes across like that normally, and in the Celtic or ancient 10 card spread it goes across like that, with the others either sort of side and across, and that sort of indicates it's sort of as if it's overshadowing the present. It's usually pointing towards as if it's overshadowing the present there, that situation. And then of course the present outcome here with the immediate future influence, about a moon phase ahead, whereas the recent past is about a moon phase behind, isn't it? And then of course the overall outcome, the overall result, final result as you could call it there. So we've got the cards all laid out. So let's start at the beginning where we deal the first card, the distant past. This could be months or even years, or even your childhood. It could be anything. But the distant past, of course, as opposed to the recent, which is a moon phase ago. This is over a moon phase. This is sort of like the distant past there, as you would say. And I'll just get my reading glasses and pop them on now as we just settle down for this. We're going to just flip the card nice and slowly so we don't disturb any energies whilst we're doing the reading there. And notice the first card in the distant past is the Page of Cups. The Page of Cups. The suit of cups, or hearts in a traditional traditional playing cards deck, as you could say. The cups is related to the element of water. And this has an unearthly sort of energy to it. In the Crowley deck, the Aleister Crowley Thoth, it's often seen where it's the Princess of Cups, and like the daughter, the page and the knight are really the daughter and the son, aren't they? It's daughter, son, mother, father. It's happy families, if you get what I mean. Forgive the pun at the moment, but this is the daughter in the sense of she's often seen holding a turtle. And the Egyptians always used to believe that the turtle was the gateway between this world and the next. That's what they used to believe there. I'll just move these cards just a bit closer there, just so you can see them. It's not much of a change, but we'll just do that as we're going on here. And of course, the Egyptians believed that it was the gateway between this world and the next. When it went into its shell, when the turtle went into its shell, that's what it was thought to be doing. And this is why the Page of Cups represents unearthly or otherworldly sort of activity. Often mystical and magical and things like that, isn't it? When's he going to stop fiddling with them cards? No, that's what you're saying, isn't it? But laughing and joking apart there, it's just so it's in shot really, so you can see it on the camera there. Can I just see my hand? Just about there, can't we? You can just about see it anyway. But anyway, laughing and joking apart, so back to this again. So it indicates really that the distant past, because the card is in the position of the distant past, it indicates that something of a watery nature. Well, the Page, of course, is to do with Earth. So what's that all about? Or the Princess, as you could call it. The Page is to do with Earth, and yet the Cups is water. So in a way, you could call it the earthly part of water, couldn't you? If you view it in the sense of the physical vehicle of mental and moral qualities, sort of giving whatever moral qualities, whatever your thoughts are, whatever your feelings are, giving them a physical form. It's the physical side of that. Of course, cups is to do with water. Water is to do with time, because it's the spirits of the West, and it's where the sun sets, as you would say. And in the sense, it's thought to flow like time, isn't it? Water flows like time, in that regard, and that's why it's supposed to. It's thought to be that way. Yes, time is a healer. Thanks for reminding me on about that. And of course, maybe there's something mystical, something magical going on in the distant past. Well, if there were, why am I in the situation that I'm in right now, you might be asking. Well, maybe this was magic that's been laid down to protect you in some way. Maybe. It's unearthly, it's mystical, it's occult, and it's you've always had the power in a sense of Maybe that's why you've joined this group on Facebook, the free psychic readings group on Facebook. Maybe that's why you join this, and maybe there are other groups as well, similar metaphysical type groups in that way, because you are a spiritual person and always have been. This sort of follows the line of the turtle, I sometimes think, because the mouth, going in the mouth there, with that, I don't know if you can see that there, where you can, that goes in the mouth. So is it going in the body or through to another side, or where's it going? Just looking at that, it sort of gives you that sort of feel, doesn't it? Makes you sort of look at it and think, oh, you know. And of course, there's Virgo going on now with it as well. This, of course, it's to do with feelings, so it's to do with that in that earthly sense. So of course, the Princess of Cups on the Crowley Thoth deck. She's the princess, of course, naturally, and she wears sort of like a sky blue, healing blue sort of garment, frock, whatever you want to call it, and it's adorned with crystals. Maybe this is the healing energy, or the magical energy there that's been laid down right from the beginning of this situation that you're in. But isn't it funny how things have panned out, as you would say? Where is the magic? Why is it not being used? Maybe because you're not using it. But it's always been there for you to use. Crow is saying that Crow is king in this deck, and he's saying that the magic was always there for you to use. Way back in the past, before even maybe this relationship between your mother maybe and your stepfather or whatever, or whoever it is. I'm going to pull out the next card now, because this is about what's going on, or what's been recently going on over the past 3 or 4 weeks or so. So let's just flip this card again, nice and steady, not to disturb the energy. And notice there we got the Six of Swords. The Six of Swords. Six is analysis. Swords is the element of air, isn't it? Got Aquarius, like an Aquarius feel to it there. Just recently there, I don't know what that's about, but notice, of course, Owl, brother. Owl represents your ancestral spirit guides, and of course helps you pay attention to signs and omens, and brings you messages, and so on. Whatever goes on, let's pay attention to signs. The Lord of Science, well, why is it the Lord of Science? Crowley calls it the Lord of Science because, yes, 6 is analysis. The loss of the 5, the analysis of the 6 before the weakness of the 7, and then, of course, the challenge of the 8 with the peak of magic at 9. With the 10, which is the physical vehicle, whatever, which is the turnaround, a bit like the blues, isn't it? And then you start again, and it's a similar sort of thing. But this is, of course, before you get to the turnaround or anything like that, you've got the analysis of the 6. 6. Why does Crowley call it, though? Although this isn't the Crowley deck, why does Crowley call the 6 of Swords the Lord of Science? Well, of course, 6 is analysis, and Swords is air. The element of air is to do with creative and transmissive powers, which is to do with the numbers 2 and 3. If fire is to do with 1, spiritual essence, which is to do with wands, then of course wands is fire, and then of course swords is air, which is to do with the numbers 2 and 3. And then of course the numbers 4 to 9, or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, they're to do with the element of water, which is with your cups, the page of cups there. That's to do with the mental and moral qualities, and then of course 10 is the physical vehicle, isn't it? As we were just saying there. And of course this indicates, well, the 6 of course then will be a number between 4 and 9, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's to do with the element of water, whereas swords is air. So you could call it the watery part of air, couldn't you? Mental and moral qualities of creative and transmissive powers. Isn't that interesting, because of what you were saying about what could we do to try and sort this thing out or whatever? With the magical energy of the Princess of Cups, or the Page of Cups, there in this case Crow is king, so the Page of Cups, showing that there is an unearthly and mystical sort of energy that's been always there. You were on about what all there seems to be is what you've inherited or what you've got. From this, like the house and any other things that your ancestors left you, and isn't it strange that what seems to have been left you is the magic, the magical energy of whatever you believe in, or whatever that energy is, has sort of vibrated and been passed on to you, in the sense of course, now bringing the ancestral spirit guides, bringing those messages from the ancestors. That's what you've still got there. And the signs and omens that are here just recently over the past, between now and this time last month, isn't it? As you could say, where you've been seeking progress, you've been trying to navigate through this situation, trying to get through it. Maybe using occult powers. Maybe that's why you joined this group on Facebook, the free psychic readings group on Facebook or whatever. Maybe that's why you've joined this and other groups as well, as we was on about. But maybe that's why you've been sort of on a quest, maybe to sort of seek out guidance in that way, wisdom and guidance from elders in that regard. And because of that, they've come to you, and your ancestors are now speaking. Now remember, as we said, the owl the owl represents your ancestral spirit guides, and just recently, over the past 3 or 4 weeks or so, the owl represents your ancestral spirit guides. Pay attention to signs and omens. If it looks like a duck, waddles like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and flaps its wings like a duck, it's probably a fucking duck, isn't it? And if that's the case, then of course paying attention to the signs of, well, with what's been going on just recently, do we get out, or do we stay in and suffer? Do we endure it, or do we pay attention to the signs? As remember, paying attention to the signs, the owl there. Do we analyse the situation? Do we navigate through this and say, right, this is the course we'll set? To navigate, once you navigate something, when you're travelling, for example, when you travel and you navigate, the navigator sets a course. In this case, a journey through a situation or through life, whatever you want to, whatever spin you want to put on it. And maybe, yes, you've got to come, in other words, you've been having to come to some decision sort of between now and this time last month. Over the past 3 or 4 weeks or so has been the time when the signs have been there, but have you been paying attention to them? You may have been doing, yes, but has somebody else been paying attention to them? If you know who I mean. And if that's the case, and assume that all is true, I mean, a lot of people can lie just to try and stir shit. It does happen. But assuming that all this is true, and whatever, the cards are sort of clarifying the fact that the signs have been given just recently to, yes, hello, you know. But what's going on now? What's the situation right now? Now, of course, given that all things are true and Crow is here, we've called upon, we've asked sort of, you know, on your behalf and so on. You're obviously concerned because this affects you. So for as much as in a way you did really ask for a reading for somebody else, didn't you, really, in a way? But nevertheless it affects you, so it's still your reading, isn't it? Let's see how this is affecting you now. What's happening right now as we speak, as you would say. This next card will tell us this. We're just going to now flip this card over, and this represents the now, what's happening now, what's vibrating now. Look at this, death, the energy of death, the major arcana card, as people call it, the death card. Mr. Scallywag and his scythe, as often as is there. The scythe, of course, in the Crowley deck, the death, the reaper, as you would say, hangs on the threads of life. So the very essence of death is life itself, isn't it? Because the scythe cuts the threads of life, in that sense. What does death mean, though? Does this mean somebody's going to die? Well, I mean, it could do, but it's very unlikely. It can do in some cases, of course, depending upon what reading we're doing. But in this particular case, we have to be realistic, and we have to know that death... Remember, death, of course, is a major arcana card. Well, what's one of them? What's the difference? Well, these two cards here that we've just drawn, as you can see there, they are what we call minor arcana cards. There are two decks in the tarot, and they comprise of the major arcana. The first 22 cards are the major arcana, which is what the death card is, as you would call it, is a member of, number 13. And then the remaining 56 cards are the minor arcana. I always call them the elemental decks, the air, fire, water, earth. Of course, the swords, wands, cups, and coins, as often, or pentacles, as you call it, or whatever. They are your spades, clubs, hearts and diamonds in the playing card deck. And of course, to get a playing card deck, a deck of playing cards, you remove the 4 cavaliers or the 4 knights, and then you're left with your 52 cards, aren't you? Of course, the joker in the back is the fool. You used to have 2 jokers in a playing card deck, don't you, normally? And that, but there's only one, which is the joker in the pack, in the sense of the fool is the major arcana 0, which is Ein Sof, isn't it? In the sense of Ein is 0, which is absolute 0, which is bugger all, nothing, completely sod all. Or Ein Sof can be infinity, in the sense of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 1,000, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, and so on. How many zeros you add according, it can be whatever it wants to be. And that's what Ein Sof is, in the sense of it's everything and nothing at the same time, or nothing and everything at the same time. And this is the power of nothingness, isn't it? But this is what we've got. Now, of course, so what's the difference between a major arcana energy, as you could call it, which is a major arcana card that's come up? What's the difference between a major arcana card, or major arcana energy, and a minor arcana energy? Well, with major arcana energies, you've got no choice over it, in the sense of it's more permanent. Yes, you still have choices. You always have a choice. Don't think that yeah, you do. But in a sense, it's more permanent. You can't change it. It's going to happen. I suppose about a bit like death and taxes, literally, isn't it? In that sense, you can't change anything. All you can do is make a decision to cope and live alongside it, or whatever. Whereas the minor arcana energies, you have got a choice. In the sense you are able to change it. In the sense of the distant past, you had reason to change it because of the page of cups there, giving you the magic to do something about it. And even now, just recently then, the six, the Lord of Science, the Six of Swords, the mental and moral qualities of creative and transmissive powers, giving you that energy to navigate through the situation and change it and do with it what you want to do. You had power to actually do something. But right now you don't, in the sense, well, does that mean I'm a prisoner? Does that mean that I'm a prisoner in this situation? Well, I don't know. Now, just at this stage, I'm going to make a cup of coffee, so I need to do something so you know I'm not going to fiddle the cards or do anything. So watch that it doesn't move whilst I go and put the kettle on. What I'm going to do, what can I do? I can put this, I'll just put this mouse here, and just watch all the other cards just to make sure that they don't move or jerk, or there's no jump shot or anything where that suddenly appears there or whatever afterwards, and that'll just prove that I haven't fiddled it to try and get something out of it, to try and whatever malicious reason there could be behind it or whatever. And I'm just going to pause the recording, start it again after I've made a cup of coffee, and carry on, and I'll just edit the two files together into one, and then post it there, which means I've got to use the PC software, because that will edit them better than the Mac. On the Mac it just takes forever and a bloody day. You've got to copy it over, and then you've got to piss around at joining it together, whereas the PC seems to be I'm losing a bit of faith in Mac at the minute, but it is too easy, isn't it? But just going on about death here, just at present, notice death means change. Death of the old, beginning of the new. I'll be right back. Right, so we're back again. The only thing that's moved, I suppose you may have noticed, is the sand just there on the hourglass. So that's may have just jerked and all of a sudden appeared a bit bigger. Other than that, right, okay, so we're back on here, of course. Remember, as we said, as we know, the death is death of the old, beginning the new. I suppose when you think about it, say there's when there's been a death in the family, everything changes, doesn't it? When you know, everybody has to get used to such and such a body not being around anymore, and so on. And it's a bit like that, isn't it? And that's what the death represents in that sort of way. Things have changed, and we have to get used to things not being how they were, and it's that sort of thing, isn't it? In this particular case, something has changed, but end. Is it end or is it ending? Remember, they always say all good things come to an end, don't they? I don't know if you know that, you heard that saying, haven't you? All good things come to an end. But of course, all bad things come to an end as well, don't they? And maybe if this is not sort of, if this is not end, it's ending. Of course, death is a release as well, isn't it? And this particular Dark Crow refers to it as mutating and rejuvenating, rebirth, and in the sense that death is actually birth, really. Death of the old, birth of the new. So I suppose in a way, if you're asking if there's going to be a birth in the family or something like that, then that would actually I would say it would symbolise that, although a lot of people say it wouldn't, but I'd say it would. But this is not what the question's about. Of course, the situation that you're in from the family point of view. The next card is going to tell us what the obstacle is. Remember how we said that it was placed across when in the Celtic spread you put the first card down, which is the present, which is effectively what we've just read there, and then we place that one across like that. We're going to see what that is now. Isn't it funny when you've got your reading glasses on, you notice all the dust on the table, don't you? It's terrible, isn't it? Let's just now pull this card out and want to see what the present obstacle is. What's the situation that overshadows that end right now? That whatever it is that's coming to an end. Is it maybe life as you've known it is ending now because... but you remember that you had to pay attention to the signs. Remember that. The ancestors gave you the signs. But it's up to you to make the decision to do something. But now, of course, remember the major arcana card there, the death, gives you no sort of... Yes, you still always have a choice. We know that. But it's more permanent. You can't change it. You can only choose what to do around the situation, and that's to do with that, isn't it? Let's now flip this card here and see what it is that it reveals. The Two of Cups. Now, isn't that an interesting card? Crowley calls the Two of Cups the Lord of Love. The Lord of Love. And I always say two's company, three's a crowd. I still got that bit of dust there, another speck of dust there I've seen, with my reading glasses on. Any more specks of dust along here? I suppose you can see because you're watching HD cameras, or watching it sort of in a higher definition than my eyes are. But laughing and joking apart, so forget my table. Because it's underneath the card now, if there's any more. The Lord of Love. Isn't that interesting that that should be, love itself should be the obstacle? Isn't that an interesting thing? You're saying about what's been going on and who has allegedly done this or allegedly done that and whatever. But isn't that a strange thing to say, that it seems to say that love is the thing that's holding them together, regardless of what's going on, and regardless of what's been said, in the sense of, regardless of that, is it love on your mother's side, or is it love on your stepfather's side? Is it the love that your stepfather still has for your mother, regardless of that's stopping him from getting out of this, or what? Because there's no loss for him to remain in the situation that he's in. The only gain is for whoever it is to get out of the torment that's been allegedly inflicted upon them, isn't it? At this stage, the death can indicate end of what, but remember the end of the situation. The situation is ending. You're saying people have got to walk out, move on and whatever. Is that what this is? The fact that things are happening now and the breaking point has come where you're asking for help, and maybe in a way you're shutting the gate after the horse is bolted, in the sense that something's going on, I don't know. The thing that concerns me here, though, is the Two of Cups, the Lord of Love. Maybe is that even your love for them? The nexus and the partnership, maybe is that the obstacle? The obstacle is their love for each other, regardless of, because they're together for a reason. If they were meant to be apart, then they would be apart, I can assure you. I can assure you now. Of course, usually there's sometimes the problem where somebody's got the money and the other one, and they're holding the other at ransom they'll have nowhere to live if they whatever. We know all that. And if it's a psychological thing, well, of course, that's usually actually they're trying to introduce that in UK law now, that psychological abuse should be added to physical physical violence as well, because it can have just as, if not a stronger effect, really, can't it? It can play in the mind, playing with the mind. I've played with the mind when I had nuisance neighbours, as you would call them, and it does work. It's very sinister, it's very cruel, but it does work, and you can drive people into the ground by playing with the mind. Of course, doesn't make it right, does it? But that's neither here, less about me and more about, maybe that's what it is, mind games. Playing with the mind, sort of threats. Well, this will happen, the bogeyman will get you if you do that, or if you don't do that, the bogeyman will get you, or this will happen if you don't do, or if you do this. Sort of these sort of threats that you play on the weakness and so on. If they're hypochondriacal, you don't look very well today, you better go and lie down, and that is funny, I haven't been feeling too good, and you can get them that way. And it's a similar sort of thing, playing on weaknesses, but maybe the weakness is their love for each other, in the sense they just haven't, somebody's got, what is it, do you have love for each other, or do you carry on living in this sort of realm of torment, as you could call it? I don't know. Remember, just recently there were the signs. The ancestors gave you the signs. The signs and the omens were there. The magic has always been there from the recent past. Well, the distant past then. And now I'm just going to have a slurp of the hot cup of coffee that I went and made. It's there, isn't it, in that sense, but the obstacle is love itself, the very thing that you say. They keep accusing each other, well, not accusing each other, the thing they claim that they don't do anymore, they are doing, and it's that's overshadowing the end. Although the end is nigh and the end is here now, nevertheless, love overshadows it. Love is an obstacle. Once you can get over that love, you can end it, or whatever. It's as if the very thing has become the obstacle, the very thing you want from this, or the very thing you wished was instead of, is the obstacle. It's not what you think, is it? It's strange, isn't it, that? And I suppose it could be perceived as naive. Where somebody's naive and buying and playing the game and whatever. Maybe it's that. But if you want to call it being naive, call it love, or love is blind, or whatever, I don't know. I want to see what the outcome of the present is. Where will this sort of end in the sense of right now? How will it pan out right now, as you could say? This is the pan out card for the present, isn't it, in that regard? Let's just flip it very slowly there. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. The Five of Wands, the Lord of Strife. The Lord of Strife, as Crowley calls it. This tends to focus on the turmoil, on the disorder. Yes, it's going to lead to further strife, further bitterness. Five, what did we say about five? Remember what we were on about the six, which is analysis, such as in the Six of Swords. It is, of course, analysis of creativity and communication, so it's science in that sense, I suppose. I suppose you get away with that, in a sense, trying to navigate through the situation, the signs being given. Whereas, of course, the outcome of the present, will you overcome love that's overshadowing the end, that's stopping the end from ending, I suppose, really, in that sense. The strife and the torment will come of it. Whatever happens, the strife and the torment will be there. Why is it strife? Well, 5 is loss. Remember the 5, the analysis comes after the loss. And it's the loss of the 5, isn't it? Still water, because it's a number between 4 and 9. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's still water. The watery part of fire, because wands is the element of fire, spiritual essence. So you could say mental and moral qualities of spiritual essence, couldn't you? In the Crowley deck, you have like the 4. You have a wand in the middle there, but the 4 like with the heads facing away from one another, as if to not acknowledge each other anymore. But the bitterness will come, and the strife will come, and the vendettas will come, sort of at present. Although the love is there as the obstacle, the love itself is the obstacle holding them together. It's the love that's keeping them together. In a sense, the very thing that should be binding them together and stopping them from fighting, in that regard you could call it, is the very thing that's causing the fighting. Is causing them to not move on. And it's going to lead to strife. It's going to lead to turmoil and disorder, further trouble. Maybe that's what's needed. Maybe it's the wake-up call that they will need. And of course, because this is your reading, of course, remember, this is your reading, it's the wake-up call that you're going to need. And it's the turmoil and disorder that will affect you right now, or sort of between now and this time, not this time next month, but certainly it's the outcome, it's the sort of the result of all this. And maybe that is, of course, what you've been pointing toward anyway. It's I suppose you could say the foregone conclusion, isn't it? I want to point toward now what's going on between now and the next 3 or 4 weeks or so, the next moon phase ahead. We're going to pull that from this card here. I'm going to flip this card over. This card represents the energy of this card that Crow brings us. Remember, Crow is king, and he brings us the energy of the Ace of Swords. Swords again, creative and transmissive powers. The ace is 1, so it's the fiery part of, isn't it? The fiery part of air. Spiritual essence of creative and transmissive powers. In this case, of course, a powerful, a dynamic energy that will be vibrating very soon, maybe giving you the option to communicate in a powerful way, in a dynamic way, to be imaginative maybe. With communication, who do you communicate with? Who do you tell? Is this the point where something is communicated about what has happened? I suppose you could say, in the sense of, is this the time when bad reputations are formed about certain people, regardless of? Because while somebody's got a bad reputation for what they're doing to a certain person or other, then they're going to try and get out of that, aren't they? And if, of course, they leave, then that bad reputation might go away if they go away. Is that the answer to it? I don't know. Is that the guidance that Crow brings? Of course, remember, an ace is a new beginning, so it's the beginning of, isn't it? It's the one of. The beginning of a new creativity, a new communication. Maybe this is what it needs, a fresh start from a creative point of view. Because swords represents justice, it represents knowledge. It represents justice in the sense the Moses story, where he says to the women who are arguing over the child, well, it's my child, then it isn't, it's mine. And he says, well, I'll chop the child halfway down the middle, you can have one side and you can have the other. And one of them shouted, no, let her have it. Let her have the child. And he said, well, no mother would allow a child to be chopped up, so it must be her. It's her child, so sod off. Basically, in that sense, that's why they reckon the sword represents justice. That's one of the tales I heard, anyway. which makes sense, I suppose, to some degree. Is this, though, to do with new communications, powerful dynamic energy there? Of course, the crow's rising there. The crow carries the soul from darkness into light, doesn't he? And that's what it's about. What is the outcome, the final result, though, which is in this card at the end here, closest to you there. We'll have a look at that in just a moment. We'll just go straight through what's been going on, though. Again, remember the magic that Crow gave you right at the beginning here. And, of course, the signs, listening, paying attention to the signs, navigating through the situation, getting through it, seeking progress, which has now brought the end right now. The end, it's, if there ever is an end, it's happening now. It's ending. But the thing that's in the way, the thing that overshadows it, is the love that binds them together, strangely enough. It's its own worst enemy. But it will end up in strife, it will end up in turmoil, it will end up in disorder, and you will experience that firsthand, because no doubt they will probably blame you. They will probably blame you for stirring the shite. They will blame you for stirring the shit, and then it will be up to you maybe to communicate and start a new communication with... Talk about new communication, I had a thought that went through my head. Yes, I know you can smell burning rubber. But I had a thought through my head, well, what happens if she has an affair and sort of says, well, I've got somebody else? Would that drive him away? But you don't know what would happen after that, do you? But maybe encourage her to sort of have an online relationship or something like that, maybe. Just have an affair, extramarital affair or something, just to get rid of them. But that's easier said than done. I'm sure that one's been thought of. Laughing and joking apart, although it isn't that funny, it's quite a practical, imaginative, sort of straightforward thing, but it's that obvious, I'm sure it was thought of before. You heard it here first. Laughing and joking apart, I want to now see what the outcome, the final result is. Will you start that new communication that may give somebody a bad reputation? Start that new communication that will get the ball rolling to end the strife that's going on right now? Will you listen to Crow Brother? Will you listen to Owl Brother and the signs that were given between now and this time last month? It's a recent thing. Will you pay attention to those signs? Will you listen to the signs that your ancestral spirit guides bring you? And will you finally fulfill the magic that Crow has now wanting you to know about? Because this is now the time, isn't it? And this is why you're here with us now. Let us flip the card. Let us see what the ultimate result is. A major arcana card. Remember one about major arcana cards. They're not just situations that you've got no power over. They are major events. So the most major part of the situation that you are in, not so much that your mother's in or your stepfather's in or whatever, the situation that you are in this family issue is now, and the overall result of what's happening now and the overall result, which is the High Priestess. Or in this case, of course, yes, the High Priestess, and of course that she's represented by the moon. She's the moon goddess, isn't she? She's often the witch that's the head of the circle when they do the rites and stuff like that, when they call it the four corners and things like that. And in some decks there's a peacock, which is the earthly effect. You have the triangle of spirit and then the square of matter. That's how most tarot cards are supposed to be designed from an occult point of view, the occult art point of view, the scenario there. And it's usually the spirit, which is whatever's the essence of the card, as the meaning, the essence of it, the interpretation of it is pictured close to the top, and then the earthly effect is at the bottom. A bit like the chariot, when you see that, where you got the chariot underneath and the emperor at the top. The emperor in spirit, he wears his crown, and the effect is that his chariot rolls the earth, and his chariot rides the earth and goes forth upon the earth or whatever. This is a similar thing with the High Priestess. in the case of a traditional deck, on some decks like the 1JJ deck, for example, you have the peacock, which represents grace. So the grace of the High Priestess, who is all feminine, her grace is up on the earth and is projected up whatever, and goes forth and adorns itself to everybody and whatever. In this particular deck, of course, we're talking about the crow's magic, and we're talking about crow's magic literally here. Crow as king, remember. We're talking about the High Priestess is a necromancer. She's a seer. She's able to use her intuition to see. Remember the moon, with there being a moon goddess and whatever. Of course, the moon is introspection, isn't it, and gives you the ability to seek within. And maybe this is it. Maybe after the communication, the new beginning, the new creation, the new communication correction has started, the powerful and dynamic energy with the crows rising to carry you from the darkness into the light, then the High Priestess's energy will there, at the ultimate result, this will result, literally finally, the strife right now will result in literally you being able to see maybe communicating with the dead, I don't know, with the necromancy, maybe communicating with the dead, maybe the ancestors, literally, remember the ancestors here, just recently sending their signs. Maybe you will eventually, ultimately, finally listen to what they're saying there with the necromancer and the seer. So maybe the necromancer will be tuned in to what's happened recently in the next immediate future, to the long-term future of this situation that you're in. So around about summertime, or even the end of this month to summertime, maybe this will conclude. But it is drawing to a conclusion. But there will be the strife and the bitterness, and there will be the whatever there right now, of course, and that. But that will manifest itself in a new beginning. So it looks as though things are ending now. It's just that the love that they have for one another is keeping them together, like enslaving them, a bit like a drug, isn't it? And unfortunately, this is your reading, isn't it? It's not their reading, the reading of you-know-who. So it isn't, we cannot in any way dictate to them or what to do. This is for you, isn't it? And of course, with that, Veronica, you've got to know that only you can do what you feel is right, and that's what you will do in the sense of your intuition. You will follow your intuition, and eventually to get the situation sorted for you. Maybe it takes you to start new communications up, or something, maybe communicating with a landlord to move out so you don't live with them any longer, so that somebody says, look, now she's left now, she's moved out, my own daughter has left because of you. What more? Does this what it takes? I'm not saying it's that, I'm saying it's a similar sort of thing to that, where something has to happen, and maybe with you sort of new communications, a new beginning, something powerful, something dynamic, basically growing a set of balls and doing something and whatever, and moving out. The situation, the problem will end for you if you end it for you, of course. This reading is for you. It's your reading, remember, and maybe your love is the thing that's stopping the end. Do you see what I mean? See this link here? How the overshadowing love, when crossed over, when placed as a second card in a 10 card, which is the same thing. It's the same thing really, but we just place it next to it there. Present event, present obstacle, present outcome. The end that's taking place is being hindered by your love for them, which will lead to strife But eventually the new beginning will come, the new communication will come, and maybe then you will see the sense, and you will become the seer, the necromancer, communicate with the ancestors who are showing you the signs of what you should do. Yes, they can say, well, you can say, well, I feel sorry for my mother because she will not get out of this bad situation. Unfortunately, it's not your choice. It's your mother's choice to get out of it, not yours. All you can do is get out of it from your end, in the sense of breaking the link and the suffering from your end. If you don't want to mind the suffering from your end, you get out. I'm not telling you to do that, I'm just saying you get out, or you change something for you, and then when your mother turns around to your stepfather or whatever and says, look, she's fucking gone now because of you, and then somebody else will move out, and maybe you could invite somebody else to move in with you or whatever. I don't know what you do. But either way, something changes where your mother inspires your mother to do it. But either way, you cannot, you can help, you can be supportive, can't you? But you cannot make decisions for somebody else. I cannot make decisions for you. The fact that I'm saying do this, do that, doesn't mean anything. It's just an idea, it's an example of what you can do for you, because it's your mother's choice to get out of it. It's all right trying to kick him out, it's her house and all this sort of thing, but it's your mother's choice to get him evicted or whatever. If it comes down to that, I don't know. But it's got to come down to something, because it's your love. Maybe it's not so much their love for each other that's stopping the Henry in the end. Maybe you are the obstacle. Maybe you are the problem that overshadows ending it. Because you are there. And as long as you are there, yes, rightfully supporting them, yes, it will lead to turmoil and strife. Maybe there might be a rift between you and your mother after, I don't know. But would there be? I don't know. I wouldn't assume so. But either way, you are the thing that's hindering the problem. It's you have to do something for you. You can't do things for other people. It's up to them, yes, to make the decision and do it for themselves. You cannot do anything for them. See that there? Remember, it's a major arcana card. The death is a major arcana card. The end is there regardless of. You cannot hinder it. But you can be the obstacle to hindering the end. The end will come regardless. It's a bit like when somebody's physically dying. You can give them medication to prolong their life, to keep their heart beating just a few hours or a few days longer. But either way, they're going to go. They're going to die at the end of it. And this is like the situation. It's going to end. And by you being there, supporting them, maybe you are the thing keeping them together, because you're supporting them in that sense, and you're stopping somebody from going or something from happening, because you're there sort of calming the situation. Maybe the situation needs to boil over and literally, well, whatever it ends up into, I don't know. But it's something has to happen, and the only thing you can do, this is your reading, and the only thing that you can do is make something happen for you. You have the choice with the Ace of Swords, but the High Priestess, the ultimate result, gives you not so much no choice, but in the sense gives you no power to change it. You can only use your intuition. You can only use necromancy, communicate with the ancestors, and pay attention to the signs after. You will be powerless, but nevertheless you will be wiser. But whilst you have the power in the immediate future between now and then, do something powerful, do something dynamic. The energy is there to be used. If you do it, of course, then yes, you become the wiser, you become stronger. If you don't do it, you nevertheless, you will see the errors of your ways, and then the other High Priestess will be there nevertheless to show you that. Either way, go well, stay well, because only you can change it for you. You cannot make decisions for other people. You can be there supporting them, but remember, is that support hindering something from happening that you want to happen, when if, as I've said, if we've gone through it, I'm not doing it again, I've had enough. So with that, for now, Veronica, The truth has been spoken by the crow, who hopefully will carry your soul and the souls of other innocent parties from the darkness into the light. And for now, these cards have spoken.